across the country if this does come up in certain races. And again, if we are unable to defend our position, then that's on us. It's no one else's fault but ours.
6 weeks, though? 6 weeks is early. I mean, I don't know how many people really support banning abortions completely. And that's almost essentially what this does.
Well, it does make an exception for medical emergencies, although, as Colin pointed out, sort of the traditional exceptions for rape and incest are not in this Texas law. So, I guess we'll find out. I think there's a lot of pro-lifers who look at the left and who say, look, they have no compunction about being as extreme as they state. I think the governor's race in Virginia, Colin mentioned that. You have a current sitting governor of Virginia, a former pediatric neurosurgeon who had no compunction about saying, if a botched abortion takes place, the baby's born alive, we'll make it comfortable, and then we'll decide whether or not we should terminate the life. I mean, you have the left saying that. You have repeal of the Hyde Amendment across the federal level, which is, which was a longstanding détente on this issue between Republicans and Democrats, supported by even Joe Biden, I think up until as recently as 2015. That's being shed. So I do think you have people on the right who say, well, if the left is going to be as extreme as that, why are we not pushing for our positions? Now, you may be right. It may divide Republican voters or it may not. I think this is still an issue where a lot of people, if you actually talk about it on the merits, it's a difficult ethical and moral choice for a lot of people.
There was even talks in these documents about bats biting people. And so they were saying, well, this is really risky because they bite. And they're looking for viruses in these bats. They know that it's risky. They're looking for viruses that can transmit to humans. This just goes to show that this type of research is risky. They were doing this type of research. We know the funds were going to this. And so it does call into question the origins of the virus. That's plagued us all. Did this start in a lab? Was this some random bat in a cave that they were looking at? There's a lot of questions here.
I think the ridicule directed at people who discussed, who even wondered about the lab leak theory, the ridicule coming from many people in the mainstream media, many mainstream news organizations, some political figures. Not to say it's aged poorly is putting it mildly, right? This is going to go down in history as one of the biggest screw ups in terms of, obviously the actual incident is a screw up, but the amount of refusing to talk about it, treating you like you're crazy, like you're spreading a conspiracy theory. If you had questions, and the denials at every stages from people like Dr. Fauci and others, the more information we find, the things we find out that yes, we were paying for something very close to this research, and research that we have a lot of reason to question was done appropriately in an area of the world in a specific lab where this has arisen, and we obviously need to learn more, but it's hilarious how silenced you were from expressing concern.
Yeah. Right, and we don't yet have definitive proof of where it originated, but we have plenty of evidence that keeps the question open in a way that it wasn't allowed to be kept open a year ago.
In a way that even if it turns out that COVID-19 did not emerge from this lab scenario, I would still be I wouldn't want this kind of thing funded for this unsafe lab. It could have emerged, and there have been. We know that diseases have escaped labs before. We know that this has happened, and we need to be very careful about what we're funding and if we have any control over it. The benefit here does not seem to outweigh the risk at all. What is the benefit? What were they trying to? They were trying to figure out how bad this could be. Well, it's really bad. We're living through it.
Yes, box checked. We figured that one out.
Yeah.
We're so selfish about this. We'll put this in. I don't mean just as Americans, as human beings. And yet, anybody who's watching this right now, if you have not gotten vaccinated and that you are putting your family at risk, I cannot understand where that has gone, where people have just decided, I don't care. I'm not going to get vaccinated either for political reasons or I'm afraid to get vaccinated. I don't believe the government anymore. It was interesting. I don't know if you saw the Frontline this week about 9/11. They did kind of a whole 20-year view of it. And they really laid it at the feet of George W. Bush, the fact that nobody trusts the government anymore, because that was such a huge lie that was told to take us to war, a country that had nothing to do with 9/11. a dictator that had nothing to do with 9/11. And that was such a big lie, and it shocked people. And Bush did it by sending our National Guard troops. These are the working class of this country.
Yeah, I mean,
sent them to die, and people now don't trust the government, whether it's, especially the Trumpsters. They don't believe the results of the election. They don't want to get vaccinated. That's on the right and left. We're in a dark moment here.
Yeah, well, but as you say, I mean, some healthy distrust of government is good, and people should be skeptical of the government. Yeah. They should want verification and more information, because the government does from the political officials, the bureaucracy, the generals, some of the health officials have misled us through this pandemic. That doesn't mean that everything that a smart expert consensus holds is wrong. Some of that is right, and it's on us as citizens to work that out. So I share some of their skepticism, not about vaccines, but about our foreign policy.
Let me be honest about myself about the vaccine. When Trump announced that he was going to have something for us in just a matter of months, right away the bells go off. You know, if you read anything, you know that the shortest period of time, I think, was the mumps. When they came up with a way to prevent the mumps, that took 4 years. The fact he was going to do this before the election, the obvious fact that he was doing it to help himself get reelected, made me think, well, let's just say I'm going to trust science, but I'm not going to be first in line for the Trump vaccine. So I understand the skepticism, because I think it's important. I think, like you said, it's healthy. We have to always question what's going on.